Everyone, welcome to summer, clearly. We got another very full agenda, so we're going to get started. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, amended on March 28th, 2025, Governor Maura Healey signed into law an act extending pandemic-related authorizations related to public meetings, allowing remote participation options for public bodies through June 30th, 2027. This June 23rd, 2025 Select Board meeting will be conducted by remote participation from the board, and I will grant permission to Westwood Media Center, as always, and thank them for recording the meeting and to anyone else who wishes to record the meeting. I've just asked that you identify yourself as doing so. Seeing none. My name is Rob Gotti, and I'm the chair of the Westwood Select Board, and I am joined by my colleagues Joe Prevotera and Marianne LeBlanc Cummings. The format is, as I said at our last meeting, a little bit different this year. We're going to open with updates from the Select Board Chair and then the Town Administrator. We will then open the meeting for up to 15 minutes for questions from the public and press or comments. And residents will have the option of either putting their questions into the Q&A or speaking live with their camera. And in either case, they'll be given a 3-minute max with time limit, though we encourage folks to yield back their unused time to allow for as much participation as is needed. So with that, I'm going to jump into the chair's update. And let's start with the heat and something we were talking about. Obviously, we are in the heat of summer at this point, and we just want to let people know that we will be offering cooling locations. And Chris, Molly, do you want to talk about the specifics of where and the time frame that those will be available?
So happy to do so. So I want to thank Laura Hayes in the Select Board Town Administrator's Office for putting this information out, working with Molly on this. So we put out some information informing people that over the next couple of days it will be very warm. If you're looking at ways to take breaks from the heat, we ask people to check out the library and our Council on Aging. So our Council on Aging is Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Friday, 8 to 1. Our main library is open Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. The Islington branch is open on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Monday and Tuesday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and Thursday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. So just identifying existing locations where people could stay cool. And if people need to take advantage of that, the library and the COA offer other activities to pass some time as well. So.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you to both staffs for being able to accommodate folks. And I would ask people to just check in on neighbors as well, especially if you have any elderly neighbors that live alone and may have limited AC or no AC. You know, every once in a while, give a check. So next up is an update from the Dedham Westwood Water District on the drought status. And this is probably going to be a very fluid thing over the course of the summer. But last Tuesday, or a couple Tuesdays ago, right after our last meeting, the Department of Energy and Environmental Affairs, their drought management task force downgraded the drought declaration for the Southeast region, which we are in, from a level 1 of significant drought conditions to level 0 for normal conditions. With the change in drought conditions effective this past Monday, we had a voluntary water restriction, which is otherwise going to be in effect until otherwise declared by the Commonwealth. So you're requested to water no more than 1 day a week before 9 and after 5, based on the first letter of your street name. And that voluntary water schedule is based on the first letter of the street name and the service address. So Monday, any streets beginning with A through C. Tuesday, streets D through J. Thursday, streets K through R. And Friday, streets S through Z. And if you're looking for any more information, you can always visit the Dedham Westwood Water District's website at www.dwwd.org. That's a mouthful right there. Okay. Moving on, we have Westwood Day, which will be held Saturday, September 20th. And, you know, we can never have enough volunteers for that day. It's a great day. Hopefully we will have great weather, but it takes a tremendous amount of work. And the more volunteers we have, the old saying, many hands to make light work. So if you're interested, please visit the town website, and you can look on the Department of Recreation volunteers page for how to sign up. Another update from Dedham Westwood Water District. They are going to be doing a water main replacement project on Milk Street starting today. This project involves the removal of the existing water main and installation of a new one. Let's see, the schedule on that will be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. This is going to last approximately 10 weeks through the end of August. The estimated completion is August 29th, weather permitting. So the road will be closed to all through traffic during work hours. Residents will be able to access their homes at all times. They will be reopening each day after 4 p.m. after work concludes, and the surface restoration will be backfilled with gravel and compacted daily. So keep it safe for residents. Anything to add to that, Chris, with respect to that project?
Mr. Chair, I believe you covered it all. Thank you.
Very good. And then sort of related is our summer paving schedule. So paving is estimated to begin around the 7th of July, and it is projected to include the following streets, though that could be subject to change: Ash Street, Birch Street, Blue Jay Road, Buckboard Lane, Cardinal Drive, Carroll Ave, Carroll Court, Cedar Hill Drive, Cherry Street, Chickadee Lane, Elm Street, Hawthorne Street, Larch Street, Laura Lane, Milk Street, and Whippoorwill Drive. That schedule can be found on the Department of Public Works webpage, and you can find that right on the website. So with that, that concludes the chair's update, and I would turn it over to Chris for the town administrator update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to provide the update regarding the suggested areas for people to go if they would like to stay cool. So again, just want to thank Laura Hayes for putting that information out there via social media. And also that today was the first day of our summer recreation program, the camps, and it's always a busy day, but with the heat, the team did a great job with the kids. And I know we have a full agenda, so I'll just turn it back over to the chair. So thank you.
Very good. Okay. We'll go to public and press. The first question is from Fran Fusco at 20 Pine Lane. Will the 3 employment agreements being discussed tonight be on the town's website? I believe the answer to that is yes, but I will defer to Chris and town council on that, or Molly and town council. Do we typically put those on the website?
If the board would like us to, we certainly can.
What was our typical practice? What do we do?
We have not done it typically, but if like I said, if the board would like to, we certainly can.
No, but if someone wants to request it, they can. Okay, the next question or comment is from Kathy Wallace at 283 Farm Lane. She says the new format for public participation at select board meeting instituted on June 9th, 2025 is detrimental to the town. Public engagement leads to better government and policies. Public meetings need to go beyond merely informing the public. Residents want and deserve to be heard. Residents have no detail on what will be discussed and voted at a select board meeting. Residents' views and concerns need to be taken into account in decision-making process. It's the only format where residents can communicate with all 3 select board members at once. The previous meeting format should be restored and/or options instituted to encourage and incorporate discussion pertinent to the agenda. Well, Ms. Wallace, I respectfully disagree that it is detrimental. It is our policy to try and get the business of the town done. And this is a format that is used across a variety of municipalities throughout the state. In fact, it's used here in Westwood by the school committee. So I don't know that it's detrimental in any way. You are, as part of a public meeting, able to listen to all presentations put before us. You are able to hear our thoughtful and deliberative discussion and hear where we net out on votes. So I thank you for your comment. Okay, we'll give this another few minutes. See if anyone else has anything to say. Okay. Hearing none, I'll give it another minute or so. Tish, why don't you go ahead and let Jared in as we're going to move on to our scheduled agenda item, scheduled action. And I believe Jared is going to present to us a behavioral health services agreement between us and the Riverside Community Care regarding recovery services. So Jared, welcome. If you are in, you are. And I will allow you to take it away.
Great. Thank you, sir. Nice to be with you all again. So I'm here tonight to ask for you to vote in favor of our contract with Riverside Community Care, which would allow for recovery services. This is a part of an agreement that the NC8 coalition that we are a part of has been already actively using for a few months now. So we're looking for a recovery coach to be provided for using the opioid settlement funds to provide care to Westwood residents who are in search of recovery services who are not eligible for their own private insurance recovery programs. So this would be an annual contract. It'll be quarterly. Let me see, I have it here. $4,376.70 quarterly.
So that's roughly 17.5 if I tumble the math quickly there.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have questions from either of my colleagues?
Yes. Thank you, Rob. Hi, Jared. Thank you
Hi.
with us.
How
Good
are
to
you?
see you. I'm well, thank you. First of all, thank you for bringing this to us. I think this will be a great resource for our residents who need it. And just to reiterate that this is being paid through the opioid settlement fund account, which is flowing through the state, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. My questions are, how can residents best avail themselves of these services? And what is the plan as far as making these services known to the community?
Right. So once we're on board and the contract is satisfied, we'll have a recovery coach that will then engage with our office as well as with Danielle's office to sort of make themselves known to the community. Fast forwarding slightly with the reinvigoration of Westwood Cares, there would be sort of this referral system that we would employ, also utilizing our first responders to sort of make those connections available to anybody who might be seeking assistance, and then either through my office or through Youth and Family Services or directly through emergency response care, provide the recovery coach with a lead or a request. And then fast forwarding down the road, it would be hopefully through our partnership with Westwood Cares, that it would be part of their program offering, would be a referral based through them.
That's great. Thank you very much.
My only comment is, Jared, you're Board of Health agent, correct? Director?
Director, yes.
Yep. Okay, and the other thing I wanted to say, Jared, is I think you made a good pick with Riverside. They do great work.
Oh, I agree. Thank you. I'm very excited for this, and I think it would be a great resource for us as a town. And I'm glad we can finally get it to this point to bring it before y'all.
Thank you.
Not that this is an immediate concern, but just out of curiosity, Steph, how much is in our opioid settlement account, and how long will this allow for a service like that to continue? And then as a sort of follow-up, Jared, got any sort of line of sight to what we might expect in terms of any annual increases, just on a rough percentage basis? But I'll start with Stephanie, please.
I can definitely get you an exact amount to date. I know that the amount we closed out with in FY '24 alone was about 132,000. So there's definitely enough to cover this. I don't have the number in front of me. Actually, I'll loop back around maybe in about 10 minutes and try to get that to you.
Thank you. And then
Yeah.
Jared, any?
Yeah, this would be an annual exercise, so I think there is some negotiation amongst this full contract is split amongst the NC8 towns. So this is our portion of it. So I think we do have the ability annually to work with them on fees, and then if we don't like what we're being proposed, obviously we have the ability to remove ourselves or to seek out an alternative provider.
Okay. And then Steph, I would just ask that you keep close ties on their math. That's all. Okay. Moving next to the employment agreements for the
Good
deputy
order.
town.
Rob, do you want me to make a motion for
Oh, I'm
Jared?
sorry. Thank you, Joe. Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that the select board authorize the town administrator to enter a behavioral health services agreement with Riverside Community Care and approve the use of opioid settlement funds not to exceed $17,506.80.
I second that.
Thank you. And roll call vote. Joe,
Aye.
Marianne,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jared.
All right, see you soon.
Thank you, Jared. All right, next up is review of the employment agreements for Deputy Town Administrator Molly Fitzpatrick and our Finance Director, Treasurer, Collector Stephanie McManus. Pat, do you want to take the lead on any of this, or Chris? Pat, you're on mute.
This is a standard 3-year contract that we do with our contractual employees. There's really not too much to cover other than compensation. Molly will go to grade 12, level 8, and then go to level 9 and level 10 in consecutive years. The rest is pretty standard. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. I'll start with my colleagues. Do either of you have any questions regarding this first employment agreement?
I don't, Rob.
I do not.
Okay, nor do I. So I would entertain a motion on Molly's contract.
I'd be happy to, Rob. The select board to approve and sign a new 3-year employment agreement with Deputy Town Administrator Molly Fitzpatrick, effective July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2028.
I second that.
Okay, roll call vote. Joe,
Aye.
Marianne,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Okay,
Furthermore,
next we-
I'd like to
just real quick, did anybody have any questions regarding Stephanie's contract?
This too is a standard 3-year contract that we do with our contractual employees. The compensation, she'll start at grade 12, step 8, and like Molly, she'll go up a level or a step every year. And the rest of it's pretty standardized. You've probably seen them before.
Okay, I would entertain a motion, Joe, if there are no questions or comments from my colleagues. Seeing none,
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to approve and sign a new 3-year employment agreement with Finance Director, Treasurer, Collector Stephanie McManus, effective July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2028.
I second that.
okay, roll call, Joe,
Aye.
Mary Ann,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. And the third and final contract is an extension of Chris Coleman's contract, who we know has announced he would be leaving us on July 25th. So this would take us through July 25th. Pat, you want to touch on any highlights here?
Sure, this is a 25-day contract extension, unlike the other two, which were 3 years. These are sometimes the more difficult ones to do than a 3-year contract because it is so short. It's pretty standard. Mr. Coleman will get his base pay increase of 2%, what all town employees got, or be getting on July 1st. And everything else is pretty much the same as his current contract, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
I had none. Mary Ann, Joe, any questions?
I do not.
Not at this time.
Okay,
I'd be happy to make the motion, Rob.
please.
Select Board to approve and sign employment agreement extension with Town Administrator Christopher Coleman until July 25th, 2025.
I second that.
Okay, roll call vote, Joe,
Aye.
Mary Ann,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you, and we will, the next item, I believe, we're going to postpone till probably our August meeting, because I know already how heavy our July meeting is going to be, because we will have the full facility study presented at that meeting. So we will take up the personnel policies. I believe there was a request for some more time from one of my colleagues, so happy to allow someone more time to be able to digest that. So with that, we will move to the Homes to TIF agreement. And I believe Nora is with us to talk through that particular item. So welcome, Nora.
Thank you. So this is an agreement that was authorized by town meeting. The draft agreement was recorded at the town clerk's office prior to town meeting, and voters voted to support authorizing the select board to issue a TIF agreement and to enter a TIF agreement with the property owner. You're now being requested to vote to approve the TIF agreement, subject to the transfer of the property to the owners that are specified in the agreement. And once that ownership change has been made, they will endorse the agreement on their end and then forward it to the select board to endorse on your end. The benefits were discussed prior to town meeting. The property as it exists now is just raw land that has remained vacant since the University Station project was developed, and has remained vacant since the Home to Hotel project received its approval. I believe that was in 2022. So this would allow the project to move forward with construction to begin before the end of the calendar year. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
No, the only thing with respect to the sort of the transfer of the property into the proper name, et cetera, do we have a time cap on that? Just
So they are waiting for the closing to be set. They're expecting it to be sometime during the month of July. So my recommendation to you would be to approve it with the condition that the execute agreement is forwarded to the select board by the end of July.
Thank you very much, Nora. Mary Ann, Joe, questions?
No, thank you. Thank you, Nora.
Not for
Joe,
me.
entertain a motion if you would like.
I'd be happy to. I'll make a motion, select board to vote to approve the tax increment financing agreement for the proposed Home 2 Hotel at 100 Station Drive with the condition that Westwood Hospitality Group LLC said property to Station Drive Hotel Group LLC on or before July 31st, 2025. The Select Board to authorize its chair to endorse the TIF agreement on behalf of the town upon satisfaction of said condition and the following receipt of 2 signed originals from Paul Oliveira and Station at Station Drive Hotel. And Nora, I think we got July 31st is what you recommend. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, that's my motion, Mr. Chair.
Okay, just to clarify on that, the condition that Westwood Hospitality Group transfers said property to Station Drive Hotel Group LLC on July 31st, right? So, okay, with that,
I think point of order, Mr. Chairman,
yes, sir.
I think it's transferred by July 31st, not on.
Before. Yes, okay,
Yeah, on or before.
okay.
I second that.
Roll call vote, Joe,
Aye.
Marianne,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well.
Thank you very much.
We look forward to seeing groundbreaking on that and adding them to the commercial tax roll increases, even as we do it at a discount for a period of time. It will be a nice addition to the overall commercial tax base. Next up, we're going to do an update with respect to Fire Station 1. At the last meeting, I had said that we would be laying out what the viable paths forward are here tonight to present some proposed options are Don Walter and Chip Heidekamp from Doran Whittier and Chin Lin and John Lemieux from Vertex. We all know that we've received a favorable vote at annual town meeting, but it failed to pass at the special town election on June 3rd. So with that, I welcome Don and the rest of the attendees to join us and put forward some of the options.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thanks for having us tonight. I do have a PowerPoint that I'd like to share. Let's see. Do we have the ability to do that? Here we go.
And while Don is setting that up, while the project did not pass at the special town election, one thing that is certain as the need has not changed, nor has the urgency of the need, as I said at our last meeting. So as we look at these options, these are the 2 most viable options to get that need addressed in as timely and efficient a manner possible, but neither is without significant cost. So with that, I will turn it to Don.
Great. Thank you. So what I'd like to do is bring the board through a little bit of history leading up to how we got to where we are today, or even how we got to what led to the votes that were taken, and then talk about potential path or paths to move forward with. So I think it's known by certainly everyone here, and hopefully people from the public are listening, they can hear this too. This has been ongoing for a while. In fact, there was a study done back in the mid 2017s, which determined that Fire Station 1 needed to happen after Fire Station 2, which was complete. So in particular, speaking to Fire Station 1, you can see in January, there was a special town meeting to approve the $3.5 million, which actually allowed us to take and develop a design and take it through bidding. And in doing so, we're able to come back to the community with actual bids in hand. So when the votes were taken, there was no guesswork. It wasn't like, what's the estimate and how are we doing? This came back with, as you can see in the next item, the town meeting, an overall project budget of $38.1 million, which was about $5 million less than what was originally estimated. So we worked hard to try to keep those costs down, and that was a favorable vote. Needed to be 2/3 majority, and it was. And then subsequently, the ballot vote, the debt exclusion vote to determine how to pay for this failed by approximately 100, I guess it's 180 votes. So that leads us to where we are today, which is the regroup and figure out what the next steps are. But just so everyone knows, obviously there's been money spent to date, the $3.5 million that I mentioned, 2.1 million coming from free cash and 1.4 million coming from ARPA funds. And of that, but 3.3 million was spent. So there's $200,000 that has not been spent to date of that $3.5 million. Also, there was an appeal of the Zoning Board of Appeals decision, and that's a settlement of $97,000. So the money that has been spent took us through schematic design, through permitting, through our construction documents, the bidding, the town meeting, and the election. So some of the couple of things to think about, which are really important moving forward here. If not here, then where? And what does that mean to the overall schedule and potential costs? And, should we take a look at the programmatic needs that were determined through an operational study, working with the fire department and Dorn Whittier's own experience? So starting with the location, this is actually, it's called a heat map. This is Westwood. Where it says Westwood is basically High Street, where Town Hall, Police, the library, and the current Fire Station 1 are located. These red areas that you see, those are the areas that have the highest call volume for the fire department, so the most frequent visits. So what you want to do is you want to strategically locate your fire stations in a way so that you minimize the response time from station to an event, because like any life-saving event, time can mean life or death. So,
And Don, just for people's benefit, and I see Chief Lund is on as well, those three intense red dots happen to correspond with our 3 senior living, right? The one at the top is Fox Hill Village, the one in the center being Westwood Glen, and then the one at the bottom being Highland Glen. Chief, did I get that all right? I think you're on mute, Chief.
You did.
Thank
yeah.
you.
You did.
And then in the lower right-hand corner, of course, is University Station, which sees a sizable amount of calls too. So this circle here is just highlighting, in general terms, the area that the Station 2 or Islington is servicing. And
Chief,
then,
I'm sorry, Don, I have one other
Yep.
question regarding
that's
that.
okay.
Is it just by virtue of proximity when you respond to something on Route 128 that it gets coded to the University Station area, I would imagine?
No, that's got its own geocode.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, so Islington shown here, and then Fire Station 1 shown here. And I think what's really important is that there's great coverage with these locations. And it was determined out of the fire station location study that basically right along High Street from where the current station exists to maybe quarter mile north or south are ideal to help service the town, along with Station 2, with the optimum response time being right about 4 minutes from call. So knowing that, we had gone through a study to look at available sites along High Street, owned by the town first and foremost. And with that being said, we started by looking at the existing site. And with the existing site, the first thing we did was we said, okay, what about an additional renovation to this project? And of course, the pro of something like this is that you're on existing lands, you don't have to purchase anything, but there are a number of cons. That being, because of the configuration of the apparatus bay, if you were keeping that, renovating that, and adding on to it with the living, training, and administrative space, we couldn't meet the programmatic needs given the site. So we couldn't meet the programmatic needs. There would be significant, full-blown renovations in the existing building. Temporary relocation would be required because you couldn't stay in during construction. And as everyone knows, given the topography from High Street down to the back is challenging, being about a full floor level. Option B, you can see in the lower part of the screen, is town-owned land. We did look to fit a project on here, and while a building would fit on here, it's actually landlocked. You don't have access to High Street. There is a little tongue coming out to the left, which shows access to High Street, but that would need to be an arrangement or purchase made with a private landowner. So this is basically down behind the Starbucks station. So pros, obviously existing town land, meets the programmatic needs, no temporary relocation required, but it is landlocked. No street presence, which may or may not be important, although having a fire station on the street, if someone has an emergency, they see a fire station, they would tend to pull in and maybe miss a sign if that were the case, because you do have walk-ins on occasion. And there is just to the north, or the top of that landlocked site, is a pretty tight residential neighborhood there too, so it'd be quite close. Option C, up on the top, is actually the town hall police station site. And what we looked at was, what if we were to put a fire station where the town hall is currently located? Again, the pros would be that it's existing town-owned land, can meet the programmatic needs. You would end up with a public safety campus, which is a nice plus. And there's no need for temporary relocation. The big con is, what do you do with town hall? So don't know where or what the cost might be for that. And then lastly, option D, which was to reconstruct new on the existing site, which became the preferred option that went before the town with all the votes that were previously mentioned. Again, town-owned to meet the programmatic needs. The cons are that we did have temporary ops built into the budget, and those were bid also, and we still have that challenging topography. So happy to pause if there's any questions, or I can continue moving through.
Unless there's anything from Mariano or Joe at this point, I think we can keep going, but
Okay.
I imagine the two of you will raise your hand if you have anything, or stop Don at any point if you do have a comment or a question.
Terrific. Thank you. So that's talking about potential locations. Let's talk about the programmatic needs. There was an operational study done in 2023, the same time a location study was done. And that determined staffing and programmatic needs for the fire department by an independent consultant. We also came in as public safety designers and worked with the fire department, getting into more of the details, the granular details of the needs, actually highlighting and outlining and programming the actual spaces that are required to meet their needs. And you know, what's really interesting is you look at the existing column, you get to the bottom line with the grand total being 14,802 square feet of existing building versus the feasibility study, which is over 36,000 square feet, 2.5 times smaller than what is needed in that facility. So it just goes to show how, excuse me, woefully inadequate that that existing facility is. So in looking at that, I think it's important. We've taken a step back and we said, well, is there anything we can do without? And there really is not. I mean, when you compare this to other communities of similar size, who have similar needs, everything that's in that building is really needed. You want the proper number and size apparatus bays, staff equipment storage, administrative space, meeting space, living space for the firefighters, and with this gender neutral spaces, because it's much different now with male, used to be an all male department, male and female, and keeping that separation. Training space is built within the facility, really at no additional cost. We find space and we create space for training, which happens on a daily basis. And then maybe the biggest issue is the idea of creating healthy living space, separating what's considered the dirty space, what's in the apparatus bay, the spaces where the turnout gear is stored off the apparatus bay, and properly separating that from a ventilation perspective and physical separation from the living and the administrative space. That doesn't happen today. It's a very unhealthy environment for the occupants. So those are some of the key programmatic needs that are still needed moving forward with whatever the next steps become.
And Chief, I think you've heard from this board. I will not speak for my colleagues, but give them the opportunity to weigh in on this. I think you've heard our commitment to meeting the operational need for both public safety and the safety of the men and women of the department. So, Joe, Marianne, I don't know if you have anything with respect to that you want to add, but knowing that that programmatic need hasn't changed, nor has the urgency of the need.
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
Sorry, anything from Joe or Marianne to add?
The only thing I would ask, Don, it's easy at this stage to kind of glaze over these things, but you mentioned the turnout gear and the storage. Can you just expand on that and what the men and women have to deal with now in that fire station?
Well, yeah, their turnout gear is commingling with all the apparatus within the facility. Even though there's vehicle exhaust system within there's still going to be particulates that can get onto that equipment and onto that gear. In addition, just sunlight on that gear starts to degrade some of the protection that happens within the turnout gear itself. So having proper, separate, ventilated spaces from the turnout gear is something that's a given. Plus having proper decontamination and washing areas for the gear and for firefighters, all downstairs off of the apparatus bay prior to moving up into the administrative or the living space.
Marianne, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you, Rob, and thank you, Don, for this presentation thus far. I just wanted to echo a couple of things you said, and then I have a question. As you said, Rob, the need and the urgency have not changed. We have a problem. We have a public safety problem, and we need to solve for that problem. It is the obligation of this board to solve for that problem. And this project, in terms of replacing the fire station, is part of a long-term plan that was very carefully vetted years ago. And that is the point where we find ourselves. I just wanted to take a step back, Don. We're talking about programmatic needs. Clearly, your firm, Doran Whittier, has been involved in many municipal projects over the years. And I was hoping that you could just speak a little bit about the expertise that goes into designing a public safety facility specifically, as opposed to schools or other types of municipal buildings. There's been a lot of focus about various aspects of what is needed in this fire station, in our fire station, to serve the needs of the community. Could you just speak a little bit about what goes into the planning for that from the architectural and programmatic perspective?
Sure. So as a firm that specializes in education and public safety, we can speak to both. But I think what's really important as it relates to the public safety is that we have someone in-house who assists us with the programming. And it's really important because that individual, Jason Harris, stays with the project from the very beginning to the very end. And he's still involved today. But he's someone who's out there keeping up to date and trying to get ahead of what may be changing in an ever evolving field of public safety. We actually had the opportunity to do one of the first stations in the Commonwealth in Boston, where it was determined that we need to separate out all the dirty stuff from the clean stuff with the city of Boston, and that was Commissioner Finn, who was a big driver of that. The public health and safety of firefighters is just paramount when it comes to a facility. So we make sure that that happens in every facility now. The active training, providing active training space on site is hugely important. So you're not going off to the academy or someone else's fire station to do that on a regular basis. You can be right there, and if a call comes in, you can go out on your call. The idea of creating, and I mentioned this, gender neutral spaces is so important because it is a profession now where there are not equally as many men and women, but the number of women in firefighting right now is gone up. So we need to make sure that we're accommodating the two genders. And then, of course, just having proper living space, right? Well ventilated living space, not just your dorms, not just your showers, but having the kitchen and living space outside the kitchen and dining, and a wellness area for training in the facility. So all that comes into play as you're developing these stations. And so I said, we're always looking forward to see what might be coming next to make sure that we're providing the most appropriate facility.
Thank you.
Sure. So the other thing I did want to say about this slide is that we've heard that there was concern, well, the building's too big. And as I outlined here, we really don't see anything that could be eliminated from the core program. If anything, if the building could be 2 stories or 1 story, you might be able to minimize the height of stairs. If it's a 1 story, not have an elevator. But if you went to say a single story building, what you've done is you've taken the box and you've expanded it. And by expanding it, you're creating more perimeter. With more perimeter, you're going to have more cost with your foundation work. You're going to have more cost around the perimeter. So the savings that you may gain in some square footage of stair and elevator, it may be offset by the cost of developing that 1 story building. So
So
Well,
I think
yep.
we're in agreement, though, the 3 of us, and along with the chief, that we don't see a change in the programmatic need. And I think you were starting to get into, some nuance of differences. I think the one outstanding question that, someone might have is, with respect to the programmatic need, one question we heard at town meeting was that, FS2 is somehow underutilized. Chief, would you, talk to that for a moment, please? Because I believe that there's a misperception with respect to the utilization and the deployment of your team.
Yeah, so the current staffing model we have right now, we have to have more people at Station 1 than at Station 2. Station 2 has 3 people in there right now. Actually, today, with the heat wave and everything, I filled heavy, and I have an engine and an ambulance over there right now. So there's 5 there today. And over at Station 1, there's 6 right now. But that's not the norm. But in the future, if our staffing does grow, that would be the norm, and that's how we would deploy. But right now, we have 7 on shift at Station 1. And that allows us to run the shift commanders in the car, and then 3 in an engine by contract, and then 2 ambulances. But the people who are on the engine might cross-man over to the second ambulance. Or if we get a call and everybody's in quarters, then we could take an engine and a ladder. Or if we had a brush fire going and now we get a fire alarm coming in. So by having the people in that station, we can be more versatile. And without, if we just split everybody in half and did 2 small stations, we would lose that and would be calling more mutual aid. Or I'd be coming saying, I need more people, I need more people, I need more people.
So there's an operational efficiency to the cross-training nature of the model that you employ. And part of the reason why you need the 7 at FS1 goes back to the heat map that Don showed because of the distribution of call volume.
Correct. And we're the only fire department in the area that does this. Most of them, you go in and you're assigned to a truck, and but those ones are coming out of one station, or they just call mutual aid for every other call they get. Why we go to Norwood a lot, why we go to Needham a lot. So we are more versatile than most departments.
And that versatility sounds like it also translates into operating budget efficiency.
100%.
Thank you. All right, Don, continue.
Great, thanks, Chief. So touch base on the location study and the sites that we looked at, touch base on the programmatic needs, and they haven't changed since the vote in June. So those are the programmatic needs going forward. So let's talk about what some of the 2 of the options that we've identified might be going forward. One thing I do want to say is the costs as you see them today will be different 6 months, a year, 2 years from now. Construction escalation is something that always goes up. It may vary from 3% to 15 to 20%, as we saw during the pandemic, but 3 to 5% might be seen as a regular construction cost escalation on an annual basis. So option 1 here is to say, okay, if we don't change anything, if there are enough people who didn't come out to vote, didn't feel comfortable with how the process was explained, perhaps there's another vote that comes up in September. And you say, well, how can we do that? The state law says that the town meeting that took place allows that vote to stay in place till September 15th of this year. So with that being said, Vertex went back to the contractor, and there's a general contractor and a number of filed sub-bid contractors too. And their bids per our documents were supposed to expire June 18th. But because this is something where there's a bid in hand, a potential project in hand for them, they are willing to hold their pricing to September 15th. That's really important because that gives the community, the select board, time to further educate, perhaps listen to some other ideas from the community, and still have a total project cost of $38.1 million. There may be a minor time delay in there. Maybe they can make it up over time, but if the 3 months we lose now, it's 3 months on the other end, they've said that won't cost any more money. So that's an outstanding deal. That does not happen, I can tell you, in the public market on a regular basis. So option 1 is basically status quo. Let's go out, talk to the community more, and see if this is something that can go forward. We can move forward with. Option 2 is obviously full of a little of more unknowns, right? So you change the site, you change the design. We don't know what the topography is going to be. This is a unique site where it's being located. So finding another site like that in town along High Street, tell you it's virtually impossible. But maybe there's a way to put it on a site such that there are drive-through apparatus bays, so the chief can deploy from the front and the rear. Maybe you can eliminate an apparatus bay, saving about 2,000 square feet. So not a huge amount of money, but a little bit. But with that comes new design, right? Potential land acquisition to get access, if it's the site down by Starbucks, to get access to High Street. Remediation of that apparatus bay floor. I haven't talked about that yet, but that's being reviewed on a regular basis by a structural engineer, and they were comfortable with the department using it up to this project that we were hoping went forward. But long term, something needs to take place. So the immediate repair might be to have some sort of temporary apparatus structure out in front of there. You can see that for $2.5 million. And then the construction inflation, if we look at it at about 3%, happens along here. Obviously, the benefits are you save the money on the temporary ops. You can potentially sell the existing fire station and gain some commercial growth. And maybe there's some construction efficiencies gained with the new design. But as you can see, the timeline, probably best case would be go to the fall for design funds and maybe spring of 27 for construction, for a fall completion. So you basically lose a year to a year and a half overall on the project timeline.
Okay.
Mentioned the apparatus bay floor. Sprung structure, you can see there costs about $1.5 million if we are to go to an option 2 or option B. And then here's a highlight of some of the costs. It's mentioned there's redesign that occurs, and that's not just architecture, that's also your OPM, potential property acquisition, construction cost of 27.2, because we're saying we're able to reduce the size of the building a little bit. But then you add in your 2 years of cost escalation, about $1.7 million in soft costs, which has all of your structures, your contingencies and things like that built in. And then you would still need that temporary structure because we're extending the time to be in the existing building. You can offset that with the cost of High Street for a total cost about $41.8 million. And so that's what, $3.5 million more than, or $3.7 million more than what's in hand right now. But what's not shown here is that you've already spent the $3.5 million. So it's really about a $45 million project, all said and done. So with that, open it up to more questions or comments that anyone may have. Happy to go back to any slides. Please, if I miss something, bring it up, and between us and Vertex, we'll do our best to answer what questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joe, I see you have your hand up.
I do, Rob. Can I, let me lower my hand. Can I share my screen, Tish?
Yeah, let me stop sharing.
Thanks. Rob, Marianne, I think we're all in the same boat as far as spending our off time discussing this project with people. Can you folks see that Excel sheet?
Yes.
Joe, I just have to say, I really would appreciate you sharing this stuff in advance with us.
Okay.
I don't like seeing things for the first time on screen. We send out a packet so that we all have the same information at the same time.
All right, so noted. Chip and I discussed this back a few months ago. And Rob, one issue I've run into, and I ran into it this weekend, that people don't understand the cost. So I went and took a look at six stations, and 3 of them came under $1,000 a square foot, and the others were over $1,000 a square foot, and Westwood is on the low side. And Chip, I think you help me better understand this. Is this assumption correct that the lower cost is before the Mass Energy Code came in? Is that contributing to the higher cost of the station?
For the FS1 project, it is a contributor to the cost. Yeah, there's some new pieces to that code that this would be the first time implemented on our fire stations. and they do seem to have significant increases to certain aspects of the pricing. Yeah.
Thanks, Chip. Rob, the point I was trying to make, and I can stop sharing, is
Right.
that you know, we waited and now we take it on the chin.
I think, you know, the other piece that's probably in addition to the mass energy code that you showed there is that was when inflation had really kicked in, you know, from the pandemic. You know, several of those projects probably were bid and started just prior to the pandemic, and so they had price locks of some sort. I don't know if they experienced any sort of overruns due to inflation, but I imagine that was a significant factor as well.
I did go into that detail, Rob. It was pretty obvious. After the stretch code, things did jump, which helped me better understand why the other fire stations came in cheaper.
In this, the low bid, J&J Construction of this project, $833 a square foot. That's excellent in this
Right.
market.
Right.
Construction cost.
Yep.
So these are the two most viable paths forward, right? We have, thank you to Chin and John for getting the contractors and the subs to all hold their bid pricing to allow us an opportunity to discuss and consider having another special town election in September. You know, obviously the community had something to say on January or June 3rd, sorry, June 3rd. And so we did diligence and looked at the options that we had considered. We relooked at the options we had considered as part of the feasibility study. And so, again, Don touched on the broad stroke costs for locating something at an alternate site. You have a combination of
Yes.
you have a combination of inflation and some land acquisition associated with that particular property. So I think, you know, it would be good for the three of us to debate and discuss that a little bit and see how we might want to engage a focused community conversation to get some input on that as well. Joe, Marianne, do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you, Rob. You know, obviously, as I said before, we need to solve for this problem, and we need to do it in the most cost-effective way, which has been a major driver of this whole discussion since we went to the special town meeting in January of 2024. That said, I think we all here understand that it is painful to ask residents to pay more in taxes, and it is the unfortunate reality for getting a project like this done. And fortunately, we do have relief valves for our seniors and folks who are struggling in terms of our aid to the elderly program, et cetera. All of that said, you know, I do want to point out that I think the good news, what we've learned over these last few months, and the major conversation that we've had, and from what I've heard from folks and read, is that there is a lot of agreement in Westwood that we need a new station. Obviously, we had a somewhat split vote on this project, but I think that particularly the last number of days have made clear that there are still a lot of questions out there that people have, and it's our duty to try to clarify them. So I do think that having a broader discussion with the community where we can all listen to one another and bring in folks, make sure that we clarify aspects of what it is that as a community we should seek to accomplish here, I think is really important going forward.
Joe, any thoughts?
Rob, we're no different. I'm pounding the phones, grabbing every person I can, morning, noon, and night, putting that spreadsheet in front of them. I honest to God, do not want to spend another 300,000. I'm sorry, Don. I don't want to spend any more money on plans. We got a great set of plans. I can proudly say I was on the working group. We scrunched this thing down to every nickel we could. We got a great station there. It's not over the top. People, I mean, this weekend I'm flipping burgers with somebody to cook out for some homeless people, and he said, "Oh, I heard your station was too fancy." Well, that hit a little bit of a nerve with me, and after I went over a few facts and explained a few things, he kudos to him. He said, "I wish I talked to you first before I voted." So, Marianne, you're right. People do need to get the facts. I just hope we can get them out.
Yeah, I think that, as Marianne said earlier, that, this is our responsibility. We need to get this done. Chief, we're firm in our commitment to wanting to get this done. And the responsible path was, okay, so the town spoke on June 3rd. We can go back and look at another option, but that other option is going to cost time and money, and it will have some costs associated with it as well. So, I would like to, Joe, to the point of being able to, have a conversation about these two options, because these are the two most viable paths to getting this addressed, but they are not certain. Don, if you could, would you mind putting up the slide again that showed the timing at the bottom of it? Because, if we were to consider an alternate site, we would have to have a special town meeting in September or shortly thereafter, October, to be able to do two things. One is, the alternate piece of land that was considered is really that one behind Starbucks, right? So it doesn't have access out onto 109. So there would need to be some type of land acquisition, whether through a taking or whether through some type of deal struck with a local property owner. That would require, approval at town meeting before we would ever put, one keystroke or one pen to paper to do a redesign. We'd know we'd need to have that approval for acquisition of land and have a deal to be able to do so. That's a tall order in a short period of time. And, so that extends then probably, I don't know, at least 18 months before we're voting on a new project at an annual town meeting, and to be followed then by a special town election, same process as we followed this time, which means we're not done with this till probably late fall of 28. All of that adds extra time and wear and tear to the current apparatus floor that Don said is being inspected on a regular basis. So there would be likely a need to have something put in place to address that. So there is quite a bit that will need to be discussed when considering the two options. But as right now, as we sit, the numbers are somewhere in the vicinity of $45 million between sunk cost and an alternate design, and the 38.1 bird in hand that we have thanks to the contractors holding their bids. So those are the two options as we see it. I would like us to entertain holding a public listening session just on this as soon as possible before, folks leave for the summer. I think, we know that the town empties out quite a bit in the summertime. I would propose that we have a listening session as early as Tuesday. We can do this same brief presentation and focus conversation and plenty of public comment. The intention would be to listen as much as anything in those sessions to be able to have community input on what a path forward might be. Ultimately, it rests with the three of us on which path to take, but I think, it is incumbent that we have an opportunity to hear from residents. How do you
Rob,
feel?
Rob, I think you're right on the mark, but I think we're missing one component here. And it'd be nice if we had some additional information from maybe Doran Woody or from Chin, but in the hospital, we have a risk management group. They do assessments. I had an issue one time where the ventilators, the life support equipment could all of a sudden shut down. I had to spend about $500 every ventilator, and I had a hard time getting the money. Once I got in front of the right people, once I got in front of the risk management people, I had that $20,000 purchase order done that afternoon because they didn't want to take the risk with life support equipment. And I think we need an additional information here on the risk assessment of this station, not just structural, but what's the health risk for the firefighters? We have to put the whole thing together. And I think the public needs to know that there are risks associated besides structural. There are also risks associated that could certainly be injurious to the people working in that building, the firefighters, the men and women working in that building.
I don't know how we quantify that necessarily before our July 9th meeting. I think we should be able to make a decision on which is our path forward by our July 9th meeting with some public input. So I would propose that we hold a listening session, and if we have that information by then, Joe, by all means, I'd be open to having it. But I would like to have a public listening session regarding the firehouse, and I'd like to do it as early, if we can, Tish, as this Thursday evening.
Mm-hmm. You're talking the 26th, Rob?
Yes, sir.
Got it.
I
and
I
just to-
concur with that plan. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, no, I'm good too. The only thing I was going to say, if Don could comment on what I had to say about getting us some assistance on that. Not obviously, Rob, not for Thursday night, but it'd be nice to have that in our back pocket.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're here to assist in any way we can.
Thanks.
Okay, so I know there's no motion that needs to be had. I think I heard concurrence amongst the three of us. Tish, I would love to put out a forum, a listening session online here via Zoom for Thursday evening at, do we want to make it 6 or 7 p.m. to what do you think is more conducive to the public? I think 6 works for us. We clearly know that. Do we have?
Maybe we get some input from anybody with small kids, how it would work.
Maybe 6:30.
Sold, compromise, like it.
And I think it would be helpful if we could have folks from Doran Whittier and Chin, if you're available.
Chief, obviously, we'd love to have you as well.
I think, there were a lot of questions. We're right in the days before the election on what the needs are, why certain elements are in the project programmatically. So there are the programmatic needs, and we're talking about options to meet those needs, but I think we need to really clarify the questions that people have, and hopefully people will come with the questions that we have. And also so that we can listen to what their perspective is.
Confirm you said Tuesday, the 1st at 6:30?
Thursday, the 26th, this Thursday.
Oh, this Thursday. Sorry.
Yes.
Got it.
Molly, that work for you?
I will be emceeing my mother's retirement party on Thursday, but I am happy to help organize it and promote it.
That's fine. And Chief, that work for you?
Yeah, that works.
Excellent. All right, Chris, can you, you're on vacation, right? Okay. So, Stephanie, would that work for you? Just as somebody who, could well be, God bless you, Don.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
So, excuse me, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I will be on vacation, but I'm happy to participate.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So I think we have agreement. So we will do that listening session Thursday, 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. Invitation, get that posted tomorrow, so we have adequate notice. I think that will be a good conversation.
Rob, word's so
Yes.
short. Can we do a robocall?
I don't know that, do we need a vote on that? I mean, I'm happy to take one if there's a motion that
No,
wants
I
to be-
just, what do you think? Because it's such a short notice.
I think he
Uh,
said robocall, Rob.
Oh, robocall. I'm sorry. I thought you were asking me if we needed to take a vote here. to
Oh,
do that.
thanks,
Yeah,
Mary.
we could do a reverse robocall. Yep.
Great. All right, looks like a done deal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tish, let
Ed.
me know if you need any assistance with robocall or anything like that. We are going to now move to our new business. And first on the agenda under new business is an update on next steps for the facility study, the overall municipal facilities study. You know, Dorn Whittier, as we know, was contracted back in April of 24. They conducted the studies that they touched on at our last meeting, and they touched at a high level as to how that process unfolded. They've already presented the school side because they were about 8 weeks ahead of us, and we are just about ready to receive their full report on the municipal side. That will be presented, Don, correct me if I'm wrong, by our July 9th meeting.
Yes.
Thank you. And, really, I look at this as something that needs to have more of a community conversation. And I really view this as a perfect fit for the Long Range Financial Planning Committee. We are going to be discussing a long list of needs with respect to the various things that are identified in those studies. And I would like to have the Long Range Financial Planning Committee facilitate a series of public meetings where we review those studies and help identify, creative collaborative solutions that can be part of the consideration set for how do we address as much of the need as efficiently and effectively as possible. So I say that as a matter of what that process looks like going forward. We will have a lengthy discussion about the municipal side on our July 9th meeting. There is no action that we need to take with respect to this. At some point, we will be talking a little bit more about the Long Range Financial Planning Committee and some open positions on that committee, some vacancies. But I'll save that till we get to appointments and reappointments. Next, we will move to an update with respect to the town administrator search. As everyone knows, Chris has announced his resignation effective July 25th. We just approved his extension through that date. So at our last meeting, we also approved the creation of an RFP for a search consultant. I believe those responses will be in somewhere around the end of the month, 1st of July, so that we will be able to make a selection of that consultant at our July 9th meeting. I don't know if anybody, Chris, if you have anything to add to that, or Stephanie, if you're, with Michelle on that, but I think that was the timeline that we had talked about. I'm seeing nods. Okay, thank you very much. Related to that, we should begin talking about the appointment of an interim town administrator to serve until that search is concluded and a town administrator is selected. I would like to propose, and I don't think we're going to take a vote on this tonight, but I'd like to have some discussion about it. I would like to propose that we put Molly Fitzpatrick as the interim town administrator. Molly is currently the deputy town administrator. She serves in an acting capacity as the primary acting town administrator in Chris's absence, whether he's traveling for business or for vacation. So it seems to make the most sense for continuity of our programming and our town government to have Molly act in that role. Like I said, we're not going to take a vote on that tonight. I wanted to get your perspectives on that.
I do think that makes sense for all of the reasons that you stated.
Joe, thoughts?
Just confused. I mean, I agree with you guys. Why don't we just vote it? Why we?
I think we need to have a contract in place.
Okay.
So I think that the reason not voting it tonight would be, I'd want to see the final contract and make sure that we've got something that we
You
can.
can do a straw vote.
What I think we can do, though, is along those lines, we can give town council direction to begin drafting up that contract.
Oh, good, more contracts. I like that idea, Rob.
Thank you, Joe. All right, Pat. I guess I don't think we need a motion for this, but I think you have your direction from us in terms of.
I do.
Thank you. Excellent. Okay, so now we move to appointments and reappointments. And we have, this is sort of the busiest time of year as.
Point of order, Rob. Excuse me, did we miss the town administrator screening committee item?
You are
Yes.
correct, we did. I'm sorry. Last piece related to the town administrator search is I would like to propose that we create a town administrator screening committee to screen applicants. Now, when we last did this, when we got Chris, and I think that was 2019, we underwent a process to replace Mike Gillette. And Marianne, you remember this well, as you served on that screening committee along with, if memory serves, Julianne Bride, Mike O'Hara, Emily Parks, Ellen Larkin Rawlings, Phil Shapiro, maybe Barbara Shea, and Joan Courtney Murray, who was the HR director at that point, served in an ex officio capacity. So I believe that was considered a public body. Pat, do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, yes, it was considered a public body. It was appointed by the select board. There's a provision in the open meeting law that allows a screening committee to go in executive session to screen kids initially, and that's my memory what they did. They did a screening. of the people that the consultant brought forward, and they got it down to, I don't remember the number, Mary Ann, maybe you do. They got it down to 4 or 5 from, I guess, 10 or 12. So those meetings are executive session and not for the public. But once they became the finalists, that went public, and those were public meetings.
Okay. What are your thoughts on a screening committee? And I have a thought on how we might go about populating and appointing that, but I want to start with thoughts on the idea of a screening committee to review applicants brought to us by our search consultant.
I think we should have a committee, Rob.
I agree.
Okay. Okay. And the size looked to be about 5, 6, 7 in that last time frame. I would propose that maybe we each put forward 3 folks for consideration with a hope to get to 7. And if 7 seems like too many, we can each put forward, I don't know, 2 to get to 5. I think we need an odd number just to have a tiebreaker, right? So, thoughts on preferred size of the group?
I think 7 is a good number.
My only hesitation on that number is the scheduling aspect of it. You know, given that so much of this is likely to take place here over the summer.
Right. I mean, the benefit we have now as compared to when we did this in 2019 is we do have Zoom. Not ideal, obviously, for doing some of these things, but it does provide some flexibility given that we're going to be in the summer months and some folks are going to be outside of Westwood.
Yep.
Especially where it's a screening committee, it will eventually come to the select board. And, you know, hiring activities are very often done online now, at least in the initial screening stages.
Joe, additional thoughts? Just on the size of the group?
No, the size sounds good.
Okay. All right. Why don't we take as our collective homework assignment, let's each submit 2 names to Tish by let's do it July 1st. Okay, that should give us a little bit of time. If we need a couple extra days, we can take that before our July 9th meeting. But I'd like to have, you know, Tish, when would you need a packet to go out for our July 9th meeting? Would that need to go out Monday the 7th? Or would it go out the Friday?
Probably on the 7th. Will that give you all enough time for the 9th?
Let's shoot for the 1st to get names to Tish, and that gives us a couple of days of buffer for her.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mary Ann, for keeping me on point with that one. Didn't mean to scream by that. Okay. Last here on our new business section is appointments and reappointments. Chris, do you want to take us through this as far as which there are openings on and which where there are folks who have expressed interest to be reappointed? Did you all have an opportunity to review the full list? For the most part, there are returning members and or folks who are proposed to be new. I think there are a couple of open questions that we need to consider.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, but I cannot open I'm having a problem with Microsoft Office Suite, and I
Okay.
can't open Adobe. So I can't open that file.
All right, I'll take it then. So let's start with the planning board liaison to the various boards and committees. So the planning board has let's see, where is that on the bottom of the list there? Tish, or is it?
It's
for spring-
included in the list, but it's also designated out on page 110.
110,
So
thank you.
page 110.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
All right. So back at their May 27th board meeting, the planning board voted for the following officers. Ellen is the chair, Ellen Larkin Rawlings, Phil Giordano is the vice chair, and Michael Dedarian is the secretary. Now, they also went through and recommended appointment for recommendations for our consideration. And those recommendations are as follows. The liaison to the MAPC is recommended to be Steve Olenoff as the member, and he has been a longtime member there. And Phil Giordano would serve as his alternate. The Housing Partnership representative, Phil Giordano, would serve as the member, and Michael Dedarian would serve as his alternate. The MBTA Advisory Board designee, and I believe this is another long-time appointment, is recommended to be Steve Olenoff. The Regional Transportation Advisory Council is currently vacant due to the council restructuring, so we will await on that. There's a Three Rivers Interlocal Council where Elijah Romulus, our town planner, serves as the member, and currently Sean Weller is listed as the alternate. There is the Ped Bike Safety Committee where Michael Dedarian would serve as the liaison. There is the Westwood Environmental Action Committee, WEAC. Maureen Collins White would serve as the liaison there. Ellen serves as the member and ex officio member for both Long Range Financial Planning Committee and the Canton Street Working Group. And Michael Dedarian would serve as the Off Leash Dog Working Group. Are there any questions with respect to those planning board appointments?
No.
No.
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, we have 5 members to replace on the Long Range Financial Planning Committee. And as I said, this committee is about to embark on some pretty heavy lift over the next several months as we talk about the dual facility studies. We have 5 members, Skip Wells, who unfortunately passed, Paula McLaughlin, who has moved to the FinCom, and then Paul Tesseri, Julianne Bride, and Melissa McDonough, all of whom have served an excellent job over the past several years, but who have other personal commitments. So we have 5 appointments to make there. Other vacancies that we have, and we'd encourage anyone in the public who wants to be part of the Commission on Disability, the Historical Commission, the Housing Partnership Fair Housing Committee, the Pedestrian and Bicycle Advisory Committee, the Recreation Committee, or the Cultural Council. We would ask that you apply through or express an interest through Town Hall. So with that, I will go through the following to try and get approvals before our June 30th expiration of term, so we have continuity of representation.
Rob?
Yes.
Could I interject for a moment? I'm sorry to interrupt you.
All right.
I just wanted to reiterate your emphasizing that we have vacancies on the various boards and committees that you mentioned. And, I think it's worth noting for folks, particularly people who may be joining us perhaps for the first time, watching this or new to Westwood, we're about to reappoint literally dozens of folks who have stepped up to volunteer for the town. And our government is simply residents who have stepped up to volunteer like ourselves. And we really want to encourage folks to do that. And especially if you've not been involved before, there is a place for you within our town government. Government is the residents, and we're aided by our fabulous staff that works for all of us. So I hope you will consider getting involved if you haven't as of yet. Thanks, Rob.
I thank you for raising that because, you know, in many of the conversations that I have with folks, sometimes I hear things where there is, you know, I'm just too busy. And I understand that. We've all been there. We've all been in situations where we've had, you know, the 17 different games over the course of a weekend, and you're trying to rush home from work and feed kids and get them to after school activities and all the rest of the thing. So I totally get that. But your point is a really good one, is that our form of government doesn't work without people giving of their time and their talent. And when you're too busy, oftentimes you're also too busy to pay attention to what's going on and the conversations and the depth and the thought of what gets put into things, which sometimes can make you susceptible to almost outsourcing your opinion. So, you know, as we said at town meeting, this is the most democratic place on earth when it comes to our form of government with open town meeting. Every resident is a legislator. Every registered voter has a vote, has a say. And so we would encourage those who have the desire, an interest in a particular topic, to get involved in some way, shape, or form, because volunteerism is paramount. So with that, Joe, do you have anything to add to that?
I don't, Rob. I just want to make sure I'm on the same page as you are. I'm looking at the horizontal graph that we got, select board appointments, starting with
I'm gonna try and take us through that real quick so that we can at least make those appointments, and then I'll ask for a so moved.
got it. Thank you. You knew what I was sweating.
I did. I did. And having done this before, I understand why.
Thanks,
All right,
man.
so we're going to start out with the American with Disabilities Act Coordinator, which is typically the town administrator. I would propose that we make this as the town administrator or interim town administrator until the town administrator role is filled. I'm going to go through all of them and just tell me if we have a hold on any of them, and we'll come back and then we'll vote the entire thing as a slate, I think is the most efficient way. The next is the Canton Street Project Working Group. And we have a number of folks who've indicated wanting to continue on that group. We have Ed Driscoll, Grace Doshi. All of these have current appointments that expire on June 30th of next year. So we don't need to worry too much. We're going to reappoint them here. And then we have Maureen White, who currently serves as a resident member. Worth noting, she is also currently a planning board member. But Ellen Rawlings serves as the planning board liaison to this.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, point of order.
Yes.
I think we need to table that reappointment at this point in time till some things become clearer.
Okay. So that's a hold. We will hold on Maureen White, if I'm hearing that from
Yes.
my colleagues as well. We'll hold on that one for now. So the Canton Street Working Group is as follows: Ed Driscoll, Grace Doshi, Steve Rafsky, Gary Yasalian, Ellen Larkin Rawlings, Michael Tinsley, Amy Gold Yale, and Maureen White, as mentioned earlier.
Rob,
Frank,
if I
Put a
may,
hold on her.
Rob, would you mind indulging me? I just wanted to remind folks that the Canton Street Working Group, for those not familiar, is an advisory group that was appointed by the select board to review the Canton Street project and to focus on the redesign process for the Canton Street project and make recommendations as to how to improve it. Thank you.
thank you. Yes, that is the mission. And then we had a number of ex officio members, Frank Baker from Police Department, Todd Corchin, our DPW Director, Nora Locknane, our Director of Economic Development, Chief Stephen Lund from our Fire Department, and Brendan Ryan, also from DPW, Assistant Director. Next, we have the Cemetery Commission. These are, we have reappointments for Bill Sebbett. He would start on July 1st of this year and run through the June 30th of 2028. And then that is typically the town administrator. So we will make that same change, town administrator or interim town administrator. And then Brendan Ryan, representing DPW. The chief procurement officer would have the same change, town administrator or interim town administrator. The Commission on Disability these would be appointments from July 1st of this year through June 30th of 2028. Missy O'Regan, Liz Pollen, and Stephanie Feingold. The compensation agent is the town administrator or interim town administrator. So same change there. The Conservation Commission, we are looking to reappoint Michael Walsh, Stephen Hart, and as an ex officio, Karen Skinner-Catrone, our conservation agent. Constable would be Frank Baker and Mike Delala. Our election officers, and there are many, and I would thank all of them because they worked incredibly hard this election season. These would be appointments from July 1st, 2025 through June 30th of next year, and they would be as follows. Elizabeth Arend, Elaine Arp, Michelle Berluti, Cheryl Bearden, Arlene Bresner, Joan Broderick, Mark Broderick, Mitchell Burrick, David Gerald Cathy, Brian Canmaker, Roger Christian, John Clardy, Ann Cronin, Thomas Daly, Christopher Devens, Claudia Duff, Britta Fredrickson, Marie Keeler, Lynn Lawless, Barbara Laws, Carol Lefebvre, Nancy Looney, Joseph Margolin, Kathleen McDonough, Karen McGilly, Patrice McGinnis, Colleen McLean, Barbara Moore, Ann Neville, Doug Obie, Joan O'Brien, Terry O'Neill, Marianne O'Sullivan, Paneeth Palakirthi, Karen Pareda, Susan Scales, Gail Sebbett, William Sebbett, Charlene Sotolongo, Alice Smith, Stephen Springer, Julia Thistlethwaite, Sarah Thomas, Gentiana Topali, Patricia Tuck, Priscilla Lyons West, Jane Wigan, Wendy Wilhelm, and Jennifer Zonderman. The Fair Housing Director would be the town administrator or interim town administrator. On the Historical Commission, looking to reappoint for a 3-year appointment, Marlene Friedman. For the Housing Pair Partnership Housing Committee, the reappointment of the following: Joan Courtney Murray, Matthew Giordano, Philip Giordano, Michael McCusker, Amanda Wolf, and the town administrator or interim town administrator. And on the Long Range Financial Planning Committee, there are a number of reappointments from July 1st of 25 through June 30th of next year. Following: Nancy Hyde, representing the Board of Assessors, Nancy James, Ellen Larkin Rawlings, representing the Planning Board, Maya Plotkin, representing School Committee, Phil Shapiro, the town administrator or interim town administrator. Molly Fitzpatrick, Patrick Ahern, these are all ex officio now. Nora Loughnane, Todd Corchin, Stephanie McManus, Jim McCarthy, Lema Jean-Baptiste, Tim Pivovar, and Elijah Romulus. The MATPC representative I talked about earlier, Stephen Olenoff as the primary, Phil Giordano as the backup. The MBTA Advisory Board would be Stephen Olenoff. The Municipal Hearings Officer is the town administrator or interim town administrator. We have a new appointment to the MWRA Advisory Board, Ryan Paul. That would be a start date of 7/1/2025 through June 30th of next year, as well as Todd Corchin for the same term as a reappointment. For the off-leash dog park working group, we have appointments. This would all be 7/1/2025 through June 30th of 2026. We have Susan Lowell as a reappointment, Nora Loughnane as a reappointment as an ex officio member. We have Elijah Romulus as an ex officio member. We have Karen Skinner Catrone as an ex officio member, Todd Corchin as an ex officio member, and Michael Dedarian as the planning board representative. That is a new appointment for Michael. The parking clerk is the town administrator or interim town administrator. The pedestrian bike safety committee, reappointments for Michael Kraft, and then new appointments for Michael Tinsley and Michael Dedarian, who would be representing the planning board. Michael Tinsley is an ex officio member being appointed. And then the town administrator serves as an ex officio, as well as Todd Corchin, our DPW director, and Francis Baker, our public safety officer. On the Rec Commission, we have reappointments for a 3-year term of Teresa Laham and Fuad Matar. For the Registrar of Voters, we have Dorothy Powers being reappointed for a 3-year term, as well as David O'Leary for that same 3-year term starting July 1st through June 30th of 2028. The Three River Interlocal Council, Elijah Romulus as our planning board, our planning director, or planning director of planning, sorry. And then Sean Weller as our alternate. On WEAC, we have Tom Philbin serving as our ex officio, being reappointed through June 30th of next year. And then we have Maureen Collins White as a new appointee representing the planning board. Youth and Family Services, we have several reappointments through June 30th of 2028. We have Christy McKenney, Dave Russell, Mary Carol Waters. And then we have Andrea Vargas as ex officio. I think this one just missed the dates on here, Tish.
I know, yeah, it should be 7/1/2025.
Okay, and through the same 28 date?
Yep.
Okay.
No, through 2026.
Through 2026, okay, yep. And then we have new appointees. Reese Fennel is a student member, as is Hunter Gusty. These are Youth and Family Services student members. So Reese Fennel, Hunter Gusty, and Belle Cath. All of them would be July 1st of 25 through June 30th of 27. And finally, on the Zoning Board of Appeals, Michael McCusker for a 3-year reappointment of July 1st, 25 through June 30th, 2028. And then Danielle Button as an associate member. Any concerns with any of the names read for any of these boards or commissions, boards or committees?
No, well done, Rob.
Joe?
No concerns. We'd like to make a motion.
You may.
I'd like to make the motion that the names as read in the associated committees, along with the revised dates on the Youth and Family Services, be so moved.
A second that.
All right, roll call vote. Joe?
Aye.
Mary Ann?
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. And again, just thank you to everyone who is so willing to give of their time and their talent to these very important committees and how we get things done here in the town. Okay, next up on the agenda is old business, and every year at this time, we put a notice for acting and temporary town administrator. So Pat, do you want to talk us through this one?
Certainly. So every year at this time, according to the charter, we, the board appoints several people who can serve as acting or temporary town administrator. I think it's particularly important this year, given some of the changes that we're going through. And the duties are enumerated in Chapter 6 of the charter. And the people who we've historically allowed to act that way are the director, collector, or treasurer, town council, or the deputy town administrator. And we're not proposing any changes to that this year. There's a sample letter that gets sent when the permanent town administrator, or perhaps in the not too distant future, interim town administrator is going to be out of Westwood for us to cover the town.
All right. Can I get a motion for the select board to approve the notice for acting town and temporary town administrator, which allows the town administrator to appoint either the deputy town administrator, finance director, collector, treasurer, or town council as temporary town administrator for any period during the fiscal year 2026, and that notice is then given to the town clerk and the select board.
So moved.
Second,
All right. Roll call vote, Joe?
Aye.
Mary Ann?
aye.
And I vote aye as well. Do we have anything that anyone would like to report on from their respective liaisons, committees?
I do not.
I do not.
Okay. And as I said, we will be doing some reappointments or some new recruiting for the Long Range Financial Planning Committee, and much work to be done there. Okay. Moving to
I think it's meeting minutes, Rob.
meeting minutes, yes, and there are several. So, Joe, does anyone have any questions or changes to either the May 13th or the May 22nd, 2025 meeting minutes?
I do not.
All
As
right,
usual, well done.
I would entertain a motion. Let's do them one at a time.
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of May 13th, 2025 as provided.
Second,
All right, roll call, Mary Ann,
aye.
Joe,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes May 22nd, 2025 as submitted.
Second,
Okay, roll call, Joe,
Aye.
Mary Ann,
aye.
and I vote aye as well. Okay, before we go into executive session, our next meeting will be Wednesday, July 9th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. We will have a lengthy agenda for that meeting as well. So feel free to tune in. We have lots to discuss then. The board will be going into executive session to discuss two issues. The first is pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to a potential litigation involving the property at 665 Clappertree Street. And the second, pursuant to General Law 30A, Section 22, F and G, to comply with any general law for review of executive session minutes, both of which would have a detrimental effect on the positioning governing body if they were discussed in open session. We will not be returning to open session. Can I get a?
So moved. So moved.
Seconded.
So with that, we will adjourn to executive session. Thank you very much, everyone.
Need a vote on that, Rob?
Oh, yes, we do. Thank you very much. So, roll call vote. We have a vote, we have a motion and a second. Mary Ann,
Aye.
Joe,
I vote aye as well.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you very much, everyone. We will see you on July 9th. Stay cool.